Saleh, who's been teaching and publishing there on the my language for several years now. He's been working on the Iranian Italian joint project, which is about sort of coding and interpreting inscriptions. He's been working for Brazen Plus on inscribed fragments of Susa as well, and he's also interested in calendars and time measurement. And so we have an interesting administrative mesh here with his topic of echoes of the Achaemenid Imperial signature in the Book of Ezra. Thank you.
So thank you so much for this presentation, and I think this is really the perfect environment for us to stay together and to talk. So I want to really thank the organizer, all the people who is working for us. And when I say environment, I'm not referring only to the mountains, but all to this building. Everything is so made in such a way that it is really a good place to stay together and to discuss, and without thinking to anything else. So thank you so much. So exactly 10 years ago, I tried to deal with the question, what is Achaemenid, in an article published on the journal Ricerche Storico-Bibliche. At that time, the question arose from the difficulties in identifying the Achaemenid presence in the archaeological evidence. Leaving aside, of course, the monumental buildings known from Fars and a few other places like Karachamirli in Azerbaijan and so on. So my answer was that Achaemenidness is first of all a political concept, so that markers of its presence are imperial ideology and imperial administration. While being abstract markers, this does not mean that they could not be traceable in the archaeological record if one starts looking for something else than monumental architecture or ceramic assemblage. In Classica and Orientalia 17, and of course here we have most of the series editors of this wonderful series, and I will mention several books of the series. Classica and Orientalia 17, entitled Die Verfaltung in Achaemeniden Reich, the editors of the volume, Wouter Enkelmann, Bruno Jacobs, and Matthew Stolper, introduce the fitting concept of imperial signature that points to the overarching imperial framework that left its footprint from Sardis to Arachosia and from Egypt to Bactriana. Just some examples of useful approach for me. Of course, when I say from Sardis to Arachosia, from Egypt to Bactriana, I am mimicking the beginning of the biblical book of Esther. Once in the days of Ahasuerus, the Ahasuerus who was king over 127 provinces from Indus to Kush. This is probably an echo of an Achaemenid formula we know from DPH. The Achaemenid royal inscription found at two corners of the so-called Apadana at Takht-e Jamshid, Persepolis, in 4 exemplars on gold and silver plates. And I like to show you this. This is a moment in time when one of the 2 pairs of plates were found, fixed in a photo rediscovered by Ali Moussavi that you have already seen yesterday. So let's have a look at the inscription of DPH that I know you know already. This is the kingdom which I hold, from the Scythians beyond Sogdiana to Kush, from Indus to Sardis. So even if in Esther the 4 corners of the kingdom were reduced to Kush and Indus, I think they are still derived from the Achaemenid formula. Surely you will ask me, how could you demonstrate that there is a direct connection? Of course, I cannot. But let's have a look at the spellings, the transliteration, the first line of each couple of lines, the spellings of Indus in each of the 3 languages of DPH, that's for sure you know, Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. In Old Persian, it is spelled without N, no, hiduv, but pronounced with N. Indau is the ablative case of Hindu, as in the other two languages where N is also spelled. No? Unwritten pre-occlusive nasals are a regular scribal habit in Old Persian writing. See, for example, there are many examples, BDK for Bandaka, servant, or Kbugia for Kambugia, Cambyses, and it is acknowledged in any grammar of the Persian language, so it's very common. I have my theory about this, that this is a scribal habit derived from cuneiform writing, and therefore a further proof that the Old Persian writing is cuneiform not only formally, using wedges in its appearance, but also as a system. But this is not relevant now, while it is relevant to compare the Hebrew spelling in Esther. So, Akasuerosh, Hamolek, Me-Oddu, We-Atkush. Ahasuerus, who was king from Indus to Kush. And have a look at the red letters, no? Because you see there's no N. So the pre-occlusive nasal is lacking also in Biblical Hebrew, just like in Old Persian. Usually Hebrew borrows foreign names from Babylonian or some other Semitic language of the time, for example, of course, Aramaic. In this specific case, it seems that it has borrowed it from Old Persian. That it is a learned, artificial borrow, copied from a written document, seems evident to me, because it is the Old Persian spelling to be borrowed, not the Old Persian pronunciation. The impact of Old Persian has been so strong that it has made its way even in modern Hebrew, because in Ivrit we find again Odu for India without the nasal. And for me, this is from Old Persian. This is not an isolated case, because even Persia, for example, is paras in Hebrew, reproducing, you see, the Old Persian vowels and not the Greek one, not the Greek forms, which is, of course, Perses or Persis, no, with different vowels. So the formulary character of the expression from Indus to Kush appears also from its repetition in Esther 8, verse 9. The royal scribes were called at the time in the third month, which is the month of Sivan, on the 23rd day, and it was written according to all that Mordecai commanded, to the Judeans and to the satraps and to the governors and to the heads of the provinces, from Indus to Kush, 127 provinces, to every province in its own script, and to every people in its own language, and also to the Judeans in their script and their language. So here I think there are several things to notice, and one should notice the care in reporting the imperial practice. It is not, as in the Achaemenid royal inscription, a fictitious king to do everything, no? I, Darius, by the will of Ramazan. No, it is Mordecai, the vizier of the king, to act. Then the exact dating, even if the regnal year is lacking, because the aim was not historical but foundational of a festival, the Purim, the counting of time was reported as distinctive of an imperial power, at least in my opinion. Then note the emphasis on the different hierarchical levels, satraps, governors, heads, and so on. The emphasis on ethnicity as a relevant component of a plural society and ethnicity as a mean of control. And then, last, the insistence on writing, ketav, and language, lashon, even differentiating them with a sort of modern methodological approach, which seems to reflect an Achaemenid obsession with them. Of course, an obsession motivated by ideological reasons whose results were effective. Also notice that script is associated with province Medina, while language with people, hinting to the awareness that writing represents a unifying factor at a higher level with respect to language. Just think of the spread of Latin alphabet among modern European languages. No, it is something that it is in common, and we know how much it is important, no, to have a common writing, even if different languages. So I'm not saying that this specific episode happened, of course, but that this court narrative, reused as an etiological tale to explain the origin of the Jewish festival of Purim, at least in part, I think, used these details to characterize its setting as Achaemenid, so as an Achaemenid setting. Of course, I am not a Biblist, and I'm simply offering this reflection to you and to scholars in biblical studies that have spoken this morning to get feedback. So I open to your criticism, and I'm happy to offer in this very nice context my reflection, just to have feedback. So for this reason, I am not entitled to discuss relevant details of dating of Ezra, Esther, that were discussed this morning in a very excellent way. So, my starting assumption is that there should be traces of the Achaemenid Imperial signature also in the biblical books, written in the Achaemenid period or referring to the Achaemenid period as their setting. From a methodological point of view, I have benefited of these two seminal works, again, one in the series Classica and Orientale. So let's take a look at the book of Ezra from this point of view. The beginning of the book is well known, and I don't want to spend much time on it. Of course, beware of current translations. All the translations are mine, so it's my responsibility also for mistake. But so, have a look at this standard translation, the New Revised Standard Version. In the first year of King Cyrus of Persia, the Lord stirred up the spirit of King Cyrus of Persia, so that he sent a herald throughout all his kingdom, and also in a written edict declared, and so on. So there is no mention of a herald in the Hebrew text. Word by word, Cyrus had the voice call spread, and also in writing, be-miktav. This complementary usage of orality in writing was considered by the author of this passage as relevant in characterizing, again, Achaemenid administration. The usage of a particular verbal form, ifil, in Hebrew, points carefully to the agency of Cyrus. So for me, it's very important that in royal inscription, the king does everything, but in administration, the king just gives an order, and then there is a lot of other people working. As already noted by several scholars, the following sentence recalls the introductory formula of fictitious direct discourse in the Achaemenid description. I don't want to emphasize this too much, because it's a very simple sentence, very simple wording, and the correspondence in word order is not meaningful, since it is usual order in Hebrew syntax to keep the verb at the beginning. And this is the same for all Persian in this specific case. Then we find this verse, Ezra chapter 1, verse 8. Cyrus had some containers, keli, a generic term, brought out Yasa at the hand of the treasurer, Mithredath, and counted for the head of Judah. The term for treasurer, you know for sure already, is Gezbar, and it's clearly a loan from Old Iranian, even if the Old Persian term, Ganzabara, is not attested in the extant corpus, which is mostly restricted to royal inscription, the extant corpus of Old Persian, as you know. The corresponding loan in Nilamite is well known from the Persepolis treasury tablets. For example, here, you can see at the beginning this letter order is addressed to Vahush that is qualified as Kansabara, so Gezbar, Ganzabara, and you can notice again the missing pre-occlusive N. Let's focus on this. Of course, this is a very important reference works, even if some parts of what I'm saying you will not find it in here. Let's focus on this syntax. At the end of the treasury was a kind of a literal philological translation. So at the end of the treasurer replicates the Aramaic expression leyad, attested on the short epigraphs written on the famous pestles and mortars from the so-called treasury of Persepolis. It is not now quite clear that the pestles, mortars, etc., were collected as taxes for their value and represented a form of hoarding, just like the vessel released by Cyrus in Ezra. There is no time to show you some new reading of the so-called Kalmakara treasure, where the weight of a silver vessel is written on it for the same reason. And this is a good connection to the discussion before, because we are used to look at this vessel and consider them art, no piece of art. And this is true, of course, but I think we have to think about them as hoarding, no, as a treasure, as money in a way, as you said better than me before. So Aramaic leyad is in turn a calque from Akkadian shakat, of in the hand, and perhaps a calque also of Elamite kurman. This Elamite syntagm, attested in nearly every tablet from the fortification of Persepolis, seems to be a cognate of kurb, no, kurman here. So this document attests that Bagafan received a certain quantity of beer. At the hand, kurman of Kurapata, he had made here the oil for the workers of Artapama. So here is just a receipt of something that has happened, no, in some time before. Here we have the only occurrence of kur outside the Persepolis fortification tablets, where we can think that kur means hand, and we have also the help of the other versions, Old Persian and Babylonian, and so I think it is correct. So, of course, the literal etymologic translation given above has to be rendered so that at the end means under the responsibility, to bring out means to release, and to count for someone means to attest to someone. So, of course, this was not in the hand of the treasurer, but was under his responsibility. Probably the treasurer was not in touch absolutely with this, was just in his availability. In the subsequent chapters of Ezra, a letter of accusation against the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem was sent by Rehum, an official in Samaria. We are now in the Aramaic section of the book. Of course, I have cut a lot of terms and sentences in the middle. I will use them for the publication. So, according to Ezra 4:17, the king sent an answer to Rehum. The term for answer is not a common Aramaic term. It is pitgam, usually translated as command, word, affair. It is not a native Aramaic word, but an Iranian loan, even if it is not, again, actually attested in the Old Persian corpus. The Old Iranian element, pati, is usually translated superintendent, overseer, commander, and it is well known also in compound names with the meaning of head of some professionals. No? So head of overseer of several duties in the palace. So this element is evident in the first part of the term. There is discussion by scholars on the second part. So pit, the second part, is gam, of course. Pitgam is known also in Middle Persian as paigam, and it is usually translated as message, and it is attested also in other Middle Iranian languages. Anyway, I think that we can understand better the Old Iranian term and its Aramaic usage in the Bible, in Ezra, starting with the etymological idea of order, command, even if there was surely a more specialized meaning. This is confirmed by the Persepolis fortification tablets, the administrative tablets in Elamite found at Persepolis and dated to the reign of Darius I, where it is written again in Elamite garb, very similar to the original, probably Old Persian form, Pati Kamash. It is in the last two lines. It occurs in a specific administrative typology, the letter orders, and in a specific parts of the letters. The colophon, we call it colophon, but it is just at the end of the text. There is no specific separation. The colophon, which follows the date. Letter orders are orders, that is, authorizations of transactions in the form of letters, while the majority of the Persepolis fortification tablets, the one that we have seen before, are records of transaction already happened. Here is one of the attested colophon that could serve as a model, the last part of the description. Ansuka talish patikama she maratha lishta. This is, of course, Elamite. Ansuka wrote this document. Maratha delivered its message or instruction. This is the translation by Walter Henkelmann, which is a good reference for what I'm saying. And you for sure know this article, and I hope to Walter the possibility to show you this wonderful photo of the tablet, which is unpublished. But let's go back for a moment to this sentence. So, you see, the translation is message instruction by now. So, Pitgam is properly, I would say, a message order, irrespectively of its medium, not necessarily a written one. In Achaemenid administration, the king issued a pitgam, or patikamash, as you like. Someone brought it to the scribe, and the scribe wrote it down. In the case of this specific tablet, it was transmitted by Maratha and written down by Ansuka. The colophon itself is a kind of tracking system, no, for accountability purposes. And of course, in my opinion, Pitgam is not the whole document. Pitgam is exactly that part of the tablet where there is a King Darius commanded me saying. So, in my view, this is the Pitgam that Darius gave to Maratha. Maratha went to Ansuka, and of course it was the duty of Ansuka that was not only scribe, in the meaning, of course, of writing down something, but also administrator. And so Ansuka knew who had to be involved in order to carry on the order of the king. So this is my understanding of Pitgam, which is an order, a message, but my initial problem was that I thought of a message like we think about a message today, so written on some sheet or in an email. But so I think that was a kind of abstract message, no, not necessarily connected so to a medium, to clay. I don't know. Of course, I don't know how Maratha could transmit the pitgam of the king without making mistakes or without purposely altering it. There are different opinions, options imagined by scholars, including the hypothesis that the pitgam was written in Aramaic, in an Aramaic shorthand on parchment. So what matters here is the connection between Elamite patikamash and biblical Aramaic pitgam in the book of Ezra. So, in conclusion, it is obvious that the Achaemenid Empire transformed not only local polities and societies, but also their cultural and religious milieu. It is also obvious that an empire is founded on ideology and administration. What matters is that the authors of the narratives that would later become part of the Bible characterized their Achaemenid setting, using precisely these mechanics of ideology and administration together. What we have rediscovered today as the Achaemenid signature. Therefore, it is no surprise that the Achaemenid Empire played a role in the writing of what we call today the Bible. Conversely, the Bible, I think, has played a role in perpetuating the idea of the Achaemenid Empire as obsessed, so to speak, by ideology and administration. And you can see one of the many installments of this obsession through the Bible, through also Herodotus. You see this wonderful tapestry in a noble house in Milan of the 16th century, where you can see on the right Cyrus. It is actually Isaiah 45 giving permission to the Hebrew in this interpretation to go back to their home. And what it is interesting is that on the tapestry, again, ec dicit Cyrus Rex, again this formula. It's written also on this tapestry, but this is just a suggestion, nothing relevant. So in the end, I think that the Achaemenid period, with its pluralism of cultures, political stability, and internal mobility, all these topics were touched in the previous talks, represented the perfect terrain for the transformation of a local Judean identity in what we would call today a universal Jewish identity. I even wonder if there could have ever been a Bible, as we know it today, without the Achaemenid Empire. Thank you so much.